Hello and welcome to today's episode. I am your host Hazel Declue, the Wealth Whisperer, and oh my goodness, do I have a topic for you today. As you can see, I am super excited to share with you today's episode, which is all about how could you already be financially free? Wow. Just think about that for a second. That's a big topic. And if that doesn't get your juices flowing, I don't know what will. And the reason I've brought it up is because I remember the time that my husband and I became financially free. And it was truly liberating when we had got to the point where our passive income from property, well, relative passive income from property, was covering all our expenses and then starting to build so that we had more over and above our regular expenses that we could enjoy life. And it meant the absolute world of difference to us. It meant that we could move from being in London down to the south coast of Kent, living by the sea, which was a dream of mine. And I never thought it would happen until I was later in life. And it happened in my late 30s. So I'm extraordinarily grateful for that. I used to have to pinch myself, actually, when I drove my son to nursery or to school in the early years. I used to drive along the seafront and just like, by the sea, or look out of our bedroom window in the morning and see the sea and just like, oh my goodness me. So it just meant the world to us. It meant that my husband could go and pick our son up from school. It meant that we could do things as a family. It meant that we could spend time doing what we wanted, where we wanted, with who we wanted. We could spend time with our family, extended family and friends. We could have more breaks. We basically didn't have to work. We did choose to carry on working to a degree, but actually we didn't have to. And there was a point at which I didn't work for about 18 months. I had about 18 months free between the time that I was a property mentor and then starting to run what we now run as the Freedom Club, which is a club that we have a group of people, like-minded, like-hearted souls who come together and talk about all things financial freedom and lifestyle freedom. And it's great. So it's just meant the world to us. And so now we did spend over a decade getting there. Okay. It did take us, probably somewhere between 10 and 15 years with the knowledge and the skill set that we had back then to actually reach the point of financial independence and then financial abundance. And I do appreciate that that's a long way off. It may seem like a long way off. It took a lot of hard work, dedication, and commitment to the cause, as you can probably understand. So I understand that this may seem like the idea of being financially free may seem really far off. But we had this discussion recently within the Freedom Club. And we thought, let's discuss this about how could you already be financially free? And it really opened up a world of ideas and possibilities in people's minds. And I have to say, we did take inspiration from the 4-Hour Work Week book by Tim Ferriss. Highly recommend that you get that book and have a good old read. It's got some great ideas in it, and essentially it just gets your mind opening and your juices flowing about, what is the possibility here? What could I do for myself? How could we change things up, or I change things up in my world in order to achieve this in perhaps a shorter time frame, hopefully a shorter time frame than we took. And certainly this is my intention for running this channel, to be able to share with you the top tips, the insights, the experiences, the wisdom that has come from these years of dedicating ourselves to financial independence and beyond, so that it helps you to get your journey going and achieve the results that you're looking for, hopefully much, much, much sooner. So that's a great book. Go and get it and read it. So the first thing is to think about, okay, how much do I actually need to live on each month? How much do I need to live on? And then you could have another idea or target in mind of how much would you really like to have coming in order to really flourish. Okay, this is a slightly different figure, well, probably quite considerably different figure than the amount that you need to live on. And if you've done the financial spreadsheet that I mentioned back in another episode, and go and grab that free tool, it's in that episode about how to manage your money. Remember to go and have a listen in on that one and get yourselves the free financial spreadsheet we have in there. When you understand how much you've got going out each month, then you understand how much you need to come in order to live. Okay, and that's a great starting point. And then you have your idea of, right, well, okay, where would I really like to be at so that I can afford to do all the things that I'd love to do. Now the thing is, living in a Western society, I live in the UK, okay, and I'm sure that there will be people listening in, hopefully from all over the place. And living in a society as we do, it's pretty expensive. Okay, everything costs quite a lot of money. And so even your basic running costs can run into thousands every month, even just to pay the bills, eat food, travel, etc., etc. Right? So the first thing you might consider to yourself, just having fun with this idea, okay, just like let the lid off the box, okay, of your thinking and think to yourself, I wonder where else I could live that might be cheaper, that I could afford more easily. Don't think about how this is going to happen, because the how can come later. This is the what. Okay, that's the first thing you need to think of, so that it takes away any barriers or boundaries to your thinking that you might think it's impossible, or how could I do that, or etc., etc. Just let it go. So think to yourself, where else could I live in the world that would enable me to afford a decent standard of living? So there are websites that you can go on where you can see how much it costs to live in different parts of the world. If you wanted to check out how much it costs to live in, for example, Costa Rica or Thailand or the Philippines or Australia or wherever, Iceland, I don't know. It may, you can go onto these websites and you can see how much it costs, what the average cost in those countries is, so that you can think to yourself, well, could that be a possibility? Could I perhaps move myself over to somewhere which is cheaper to live, but still work the same job, especially as now an awful lot of us are working from home, and the ability to travel has opened up like never before. The ability to be located somewhere else has opened up like never before. The key thing here is to think about how could you reduce your expenses in the initial instance. Now, you may be saying to me, Hazel, come on, seriously, I don't want to move from where I am. I want to stay where I am, and I want to be able to operate from here. Well, then you've got to understand what it would take in order for you to be able to build up the level of income to keep your current lifestyle. Or you might consider to yourself that there would be a possibility to either downsize or move slightly out of area to be able to reduce the level of expenses that you have in your current situation. You could either downsize the home that you're in or move to a slightly cheaper location, perhaps. There are different options, okay? I'm just exploring the idea here of how to reduce your expenses so that you can start to build up your standard of living in the way that you want to do it. So that's the initial sort of thinking around this idea. So if you're going to be thinking about how could I already be financially free, just let's really play with this and say that there are no holds barred. So let's say that you're able to reorganize your life so that you've got money coming in and you are able to relocate yourself and you're able to switch to a more online version of what you're doing. I mean, that may or may not be possible, okay, in the current situation you're at, but let's just say that that's an idea. And you say to yourself, well, I'd like to actually only work I don't know, 20 hours a week, 15 to 20 hours a week. How could I do that? What sort of business could I run? Could I start something online? Could I develop a good balance between the work that I'm doing at the moment, in terms of then being able to take it so that I can work more remotely, for example? And so you've got to think to yourself, how could I achieve my goal of being financially free easier, in less time, and with less money, to already be financially free? So if I could kind of wind the clock back, okay, I would be thinking, how could I have done things differently to achieve my goal quicker? Now, I used to teach music prior to becoming a property investor. And if I think about it now, I could have done that anywhere, right? So I didn't have to live in London. I could have been located anywhere else. So we could have moved down to the coast even sooner, and I could have worked, down here, and built up a little sort of sideline business like that, whilst building up the property portfolio, and then slowly but surely put the pieces of the jigsaw into the mix, one by one. If I was much younger, and I was, we were just starting out in life, I definitely would consider coaching from abroad. I would use the internet connection. I would set up a coaching business, and whatever my skill set was, I would definitely bring that to the online world, and build a business remotely. There are so many options that you could do. And so you've got to sort of think to yourself, well, how can I maximize the amount of money I'm earning, relocate myself, or change my current situation so that my expenses are reduced, and I can cover those expenses in a way that affords for me to be able to then have the time freedom and the lifestyle freedom that I'm looking for. And then finally, you've got to think about, well, okay, what would it take to actually implement those changes? So this is where you get to the how. Okay, and we're not going to discuss the how right here, right now. This is meant to just open you up to an idea, a possibility. My son's been watching videos on YouTube, and he's been seeing how there's this young guy who lives in Bali for less than $1,000 a month. He rents an apartment for about $500. He has his own private fisherman charter. Every single day he goes out spearfishing. He's with the locals. He's integrating himself into the society there for however long he's going to be out there. And even a meal out is just a couple of pounds, a couple of dollars or whatever. And so his lifestyle out there is so vastly different from living in America or the UK or Australia or anywhere sort of Western society. So he's kind of broadening his horizons as to what's possible in other parts of the world, so that he can already see the possibilities of, how can I live on less money and have a freer lifestyle, without going down the conventional work route. Because let's face it, when we are tied into our 9 to 5, or whatever that looks like for you, it's very, 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 very hard to think about how to extricate yourself from that, how to get out of that situation once you are firmly in there and comfortably off. Okay, so this is a bit of a radical idea, a bit of a radical plan to think, wow, how could I do it? Just have fun, explore this idea, even if you're not going to implement any of it at all in the immediate sense. At least it will have broadened your horizons and given you, hopefully, a bit of inspiration as to the possibilities, the ideas of how could I rejig my life so that it could already look a little bit like, or a lot like, I would like it to look. Okay, the idea being that I would love for you to reduce the amount of time that it took us to get to that point. And by having these types of conversations, we can really, explore that and open up to it. So have fun with it. If you're really enjoying this content and you're loving the ideas that I'm sharing, then I would absolutely love it if you would like, follow, subscribe, so that you can always get my latest content and the wisdoms and the sharings that have come from the last 25 years of exploring this very topic. So on that note, have fun with this exercise, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.